Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, team. First Sky Omaha Radio, First Sky Omaha in the morning.
In the morning.
Hey. Make sure everything's on. Check 1 2 1 2. Yo, yo, yo.
Is this thing on?
Say again.
Is this thing on?
Yeah. All right, all right. Last minute turning on of switches. Hitting them switches early in the morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, here we go. Brooke Allen gives us a good morning. Wanda Lewis says good morning. Good morning to y'all.
Hey.
This is second day of us strictly on YouTube. We are running on First Sky Omaha, the Facebook page for a little while, where I see Wanda Lewis. Judy Prinzler gives us a good morning, First Sky family. Good morning, Judy Prinzler. Hey. Remember, we are moving exclusively to YouTube coming up very soon, so get your YouTube account ready. Yep. Brooke said, since you guys are moving to YouTube, no need for a Facebook account anymore. Okay.
There you go. There you go.
All right. You're only on there for us, huh? That's what's up.
That's love.
All right. Josh Tate says, magnificent Monday morning, all.
Okay.
It's too early for me to say magnificent.
That's too much.
Shout out to the 630 crew. Just got a message from Beth. She likes the music. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us over there on Friends of First Sky Omaha Radio. That's what's up.
Hey. I'll be honest, man. I'm a little jealous of the 630 crew, because I never get to catch the mix. We always here working and talking, looking at the stories.
Right, exactly. Good morning, all. Good morning, all. Josh takes his. Pops says good morning, good Monday morning, all. Love from Las Vegas. What's up, Pops?
Okay.
Remember, Pops, Facebook did you dirty the other day. You might want to jump on YouTube with us.
Come to death row.
Come to death row. No more. Valentine says morning, fam. Good morning to you as well. Y'all coming in on YouTube. I'm loving it.
Yeah, man.
Hey. All right. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. We're over on YouTube. Only got a couple more weeks where we're going to be broadcasting on First Sky Omaha, the Facebook channel, that is. On exclusively the YouTube in season 5.
Actually, one more. We only got one more Monday.
Is that right?
Yeah, next Friday is the 16th, my brother.
Wow.
Hey, that's if you believe in the concept of time.
That's right. All right. Let's get this party started. Thanks for joining us. You're listening to First Sky Omaha Radio, First Sky Omaha in the morning.
In the morning.
All Beeee, Buddi3 Da Gawd, all of you chat chimers, all of you ghost listeners. Monday, December 5th, 2022. It's getting a little cold outside. It's supposed to snow pretty soon in the morning. But it did say we're still going to get a couple of 40-degree days. So I guess we'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, that's par for the course, man. That's Omaha for you to fluctuate and dance around well into January, and then get frigid January.
He's equipment that has no rhythm.
Man.
Yeah, not liking it. Rose Reviews in the house. What's up? He says, Mr. First Sky, man, there's something wrong with my line. When I dial my baby's number, I get a click every time. Must be a bad connection.
Hey,
Old school, new edition. I love it. I
man,
love it. Pop says, "Yep, that just hit me. Heading to YouTube as we speak."
come to death row.
Come to death row. Michelle Moreno gives us a good morning. Good morning to you. For everyone that is on Facebook, do us a favor and share the show. Once again, though, you might want to go ahead and move over to YouTube. We are making that transition where we'll be exclusively broadcasting from YouTube pretty soon here. So, yeah, get your YouTube account ready. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. There's a lot of people that hit me up over the weekend, like, did we lose? Is the show off? What happened? So we got to keep on making that announcement, and we're asking you to spread the news as well. So yeah, no more Friends of First Sky Omaha broadcast, and no more Twitter broadcast. Right now, we're exclusively on YouTube and the First Sky Omaha Facebook page, and then we're going to drown. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the First Sky Omaha Facebook page broadcasts at the end of the season. That is the news. And of
Strictly
course, we
YouTube.
can say again,
Strictly YouTube.
strictly YouTube. That's right. Juana Lewis says, "Will there be commercials on YouTube?" That's a good question.
It's a good question.
We're not putting no commercials on there yet, so I guess we'll see if YouTube does.
Let us know.
Rosary says, "Hit the like button on the way in or out." There you go. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. Bang the dilly, hit the bell. And yeah, so every time we jump on there, you get a little notification. It's going down. You can also share the show from YouTube, from what I understand too. So come with us on this journey. We're gonna jump back in. Pop says, "Okay, I'm back home. I'm at home." There you go.
Okay. Welcome.
Welcome, welcome.
Take your shoes off.
Appreciate everybody joining us already, man. This was up. Just like I said, tell a friend, tell a friend. We go through a transition where people got to find us again a little bit, but I have faith in the chat chiming in the ghost listening community to come check us out.
Yeah. And that might even, open us up to even newer people. Some people who, just, hey, I'm not making a Facebook. Y'all catch me somewhere else. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people that's not on Facebook. So definitely tell a friend and tell a friend. Looking forward to what this means as far as the change up. Again, we talked about last show, some changes on our website and things that we're also excited about. So yeah, man, we're taking a step forward. Definitely appreciate everybody coming in this morning with us. A lot of good energy, man. A lot of people happy. A lot of good Monday mornings, man. Let us know how your weekend went. Did you get into anything exciting, special?
Yeah.
Did you learn anything? Yeah, what'd you do? Did you get outside?
How about you, buddy? You do anything cool?
What did I do this weekend? Well, I did. We did have a ceremony at our temple yesterday. That was pretty cool. Spent time with the extended family and inducted some new members into our temple. So that was, good evening. But man, really just chilling at home, man. Having some car issues, of course, as I mentioned, hoopty crew still. So kind of sideline for the moment. Luckily, I can just do this from the comfort of my home. And do some other work that I do, but yeah. And my kids went on a vacation with Mama D, Mama
Okay,
God.
nice.
Yeah. They went down to Tampa to visit some other family while they were down here trying to make the most of their trip, and she took the grandbabies with her. So I'm kind of enjoying the quiet.
Enjoy the silence.
Yeah,
Uh,
man. Yeah,
I
man.
want to know how the babies get a vacation. They ain't got no job. How they get a vacation? What's that
Well,
all?
it's more like me getting a vacation, but we disguise it like that.
Brick Allen says last week of the semester. So I know you looking forward to that break. Everybody that's in school right now too. I was just talking to somebody else that said they want to get their degree in something. I said, well, but, UNO still got that program. You might be able to go get your degree for free. So go check it out.
Man,
Make under a certain amount.
that's still
But
good.
yeah, it's still going on. So, wait a minute, is it still going on? I think maybe
That's I'm like, hey, that's still rolling.
yeah, I think they just shut it down. I gotta look at that again.
Hey, let's go to the chat. Let us know. Let us know.
Yeah,
Anyone?
but they still do have programs for people that live in town that if it's not free, it's a lot less. And you can definitely step up and do that. So, but I will say that everybody who is in school right now is really, really looking forward to the break.
Man,
It's been hectic from what I understand. So
okay.
yeah, shout out to y'all and let us know what you're gonna do for the break too. What's everybody doing? Anybody going out of town? What's going down this break? I will not be. I think I might take a short trip out to Vegas for a little minute, but
Okay.
for the most part, I'll be here in town during the first Sky Omaha break because we'll be behind the scenes, really grinding on some stuff to get season 5 up and running. We need that extra time to do that, so it is what it is.
Yeah, coming quick though. Coming quick again. This is the second to last week. We got one more Monday after this, and then hibernation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll be hibernating, all right, but grinding. Kimmer Snipes gives us a good morning, y'all. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us this morning. Let us know how your weekend went. Anything cool happened? Anything? Do anything, guys? Do anything good? Trying to think if I did anything this way. Yeah, I did. I went out with the Reader. So Carla from the Reader from El Perico
Okay.
just graduated and got her second degree. So Carla got 2 master's degree now. I'm like, man.
Yeah.
And it was also a little party for her. So we got together with the news gang, hung out a little bit. It was
Squad.
fun. It was good. Yeah, it was just good to catch up with people on a non-work level and kind of just hang out a little bit. So yeah, that was the highlight of my weekend.
Okay, nice. It's always important to connect. Again, let us know what you did. Did anybody make it to Christmas in the village?
I heard a lot of people did that.
Yeah. Let us know if you made it out there. Just tell us your personal experience, a quick little anecdote, if you will. And, we'll actually get to talk about that here in a second. There's an article covering that and, wanted to cover some positive things going on in the community. And then also we do have some other news to get into. So, let's go ahead and get into it. Get the show started, man. Speaking of the Reader, we will be having Bridget on. So shout out to Bridget Fogarty of the Reader and El Perico. She's written an article looking at some regenerative farming going on in the community, kind of carrying on a conversation we were having here on the show with as far as farming, some other things that the community can do, maybe some industries that we can see coming up, here in the urban area. As far as industries, networks, especially addressing food deserts in North and South Omaha, or as we call it, the East Side. So yeah, definitely looking forward to speaking with her. Also, we will not have anyone from Flatwater Free Press, but we will be featuring an article from one of their freelance writers that kind of deals with the same thing. One of the reservations are looking again at our Native brothers and sisters. One of the reservations has a school that actually reached 100% graduation over the next 2 years, or the last 2 years. And they just changed one thing. They introduced a cultural class that has the students really excited. So we're definitely going to talk about that and some of the success behind that. Again, continue our conversation on education, man. It's important. So yeah, big shout out to everybody still in school, still slamming the books, if you will. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if about going back, man. I think about it, but more power to you.
I hear you.
More power to you. Speaking of power, actually, as Paul mentioned, it is getting cold out there, and there is a watchdog who is warning that there might be some potential electrical shortfalls due to the winter. If you remember, there were power outages in the community. What was that, last year, or was that a couple years ago? There was about a week or so. There's a power actually might have been 2 weeks. There was a major power outage that has some power grids across the nation going down. Could that be happening again, making a already possibly long winter longer?
It was 2 weeks for some parts of town. It was 2 days for others.
All right. Hey, I know I'm the only one that remembers. So again, talk to us. Let your mind be free. Let your voice be heard. We're here for the next 2 hours. Paul B, Buddi3 Da Gawd. We'll be talking about all that and more. And of course, if there's anything that we're not talking about that you feel like we're missing the mark on, or we should be talking about, feel free to drop that into the chat. And even though we are broadcasting on YouTube, you can still always go to Friends of First Sky Omaha on Facebook if you have a Facebook page, and continue the conversation. Drop some stories in there. Let us know what's going on in your world. But in the meantime, in between time, let's go ahead and get the show on the road. Paul B.
Yo.
Let's go.
Hey. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. What's up? What's up? You're listening to First Sky Omaha Radio. First Sky Omaha in the morning.
In the morning.
Paul
Yeah.
B, Buddi3 Da Gawd, all of you chat chimers, all of you ghost listeners. Thanks for everybody joining us on YouTube. You know we are making that transition over to YouTube at a certain point. We will not be broadcasting live on First Sky Omaha. Coming up here at the end of the break, which is going to be on the 16th, we will broadcast on First Sky Omaha and YouTube up until then, and then after that it'll be YouTube strictly. So get your YouTube, you know, whatever you got over there. What do? You open them, you put an account, put your name up. You know, if you don't have YouTube already, go ahead and do all that so you can,
Well,
you know, join in on all the conversations.
actually, for YouTube, if you have a Google account, like if you have a Gmail or email address, you should already have a YouTube account.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead and check it out and get ready for that. I also saw a way. I also saw that there's a way that you can post things on our YouTube page as well. So I'll figure that out because we can do a little bit of that Friends of First Sky Omaha work over on YouTube as well. They're trying to expand their thing a little bit. So that's what's up. Anyway, thanks for joining us again. This is Monday, December the 5th, 2022, and fresh edition of First Sky Omaha in the morning. We got Bridget Fogarty from the Reader coming as a special guest, so stay tuned for her. Most definitely. We got a lot of stuff going on in the chat already. I really appreciate everybody jumping in on the chat so early. Brooke said I'll be turning the big 4-0 during the break, so I'll just be chilling out with my back hurting. Kimber Snipes says she went to church and then went to Christmas in the Village too. Let us know how Christmas in the Villages went
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Black Dynamite in the house. He says, top of the morning, gents. Black Dynamite here. What's going on? Rome's Review says, I got my booster and my flu shot. Okay, taking care of business. I got good morning from Mark Manor. What's happening, brother? Good morning to you as well. Stacey Jean says, good morning, First Sky Omaha family and friends. What's going on, Stacey Jean? I see you on Facebook. Remember how Facebook did us dirty? You might want to jump over to YouTube. Never know what's going to happen, but I think it'll be all right today. I don't know what was going on the other day. But again, just let you know, we are going to be going to YouTube exclusively soon. Rome's Review says, trim your trees in your yard over power lines. Please do. Please don't let them trees fall down in the lines and knock everybody out. We just read an article about a case of, I think it was in Texas, where somebody has been shooting at some power boxes and took the lights out for about 20,000 people. I'll find that story. But yeah, some people messing with stuff, and it's a bad time. Wintertime is a bad time to do that.
Man.
Leia Keiser says, good morning. Good morning to you. Brother Valentine says, got all my generators prepped and ready to go. Man, heard that. Need to make them definitely have that happen if you have the luxury of doing so, for sure. Wanda Lewis says, you have to download YouTube. It's free. Okay. That's what's up. Gotta
Really?
download YouTube. Okay.
You can't just go to youtube.com?
Not sure about that. Kimber Snipe says, yay, I got to see my peeps again. I was missing being able to chat on FB. Okay, yeah. I wonder, yeah. See what I'm saying? Facebook, I don't know, be tripping. She says, a happy early birthday, Brooke, and stop it. You just getting started. Talking about her back hurt. And Anthony Hart says, good morning. Kimber Snipe says, that was North Carolina. Oh, yeah, North Carolina. Somebody was shooting at a power grid or somewhere that took everybody's electricity off.
It gets cold.
Yeah, North Carolina. That's what's up. So thanks for everybody that's joined us and jumping into the chat. Healthy conversations going on right now. We'll have some more for sure because we got some good topics to talk about today. And then, like we said, special guest coming in the house, Bridget Fogarty, one of my favorite people in the world, coming on through and telling us what's going on with the Reader. I spent some time with the Reader crew. If you guys just joining us, spent some time with the Reader crew over the weekend in kind of a non-work setting, just kind of a little celebratory setting for Carla over at El Perico, who just graduated or is getting ready to graduate or something's going on with her. So it was cool. It was cool to hang out with them. And of course, all we did was sit around the table and talk about work and talk about stories.
Well, when you're working your passions, it's hard to
That's right. That's right. Meantime, between time, I think everybody's ready to go. So, buddy, what's on the agenda?
Well, we'll kick off right where I think everybody has power on the mind, so we'll get there. Again, it is cooling off across the country, and people are getting prepared for it. You know how that might impact the infrastructure. Again, if you stay ready, you got to get ready. So big shout out to Brother Inamar Valentine, got the generators on deck.
Get ready.
But this reported by KETV3 in regards to a reliability. Watchdog warns of potential electric shortfalls this summer. Again, going back to a couple years ago now, I think, when the power grid across the country, mostly the Texas Midwestern area, losing power for a large amount of time and for thousands and thousands of homes. And again, I keep going back to President Biden's infrastructure grade sheet and how everybody like scored poorly really across the country. And again, it's not just the water systems that we've been talking about, but electrical grids definitely should be something that we should continue to think about and you know, make sure are shored up because this winter could be long, not just shipping strikes, not just inflation, but now possibly another outage for at least the Mid-Continent Independent Systems Operator, which is again a grid that covers actually 15 states, of course, including Nebraska and Iowa. There is a warning that extreme cold that extends deep into the area could lead to high generator outages from inadequate weatherization in southern units and in unavailability, of fuel for natural gas fired generators. So again, just where'd you get your generator? Let's just keep it practical. You know, in our Valentine, where did you get your generator? How much did you pay? Because again, as we know, for some parts of the community, they might not be so quick to make sure we get our power restarted. So again, these are things that we should talk about, prepare for, and be aware of. So yeah, where'd you get your generator? Do other people have generators, or do you just have a plan if these types of things tend to happen?
You know, it's funny. Just last night, I got roped into buying a book about living off grid
Hmm.
uh, because it's first of all the way that they presented it was so good. I was just like,
I'm sold.
just take my
Take
money.
my money.
But but it made me think about like why that's still so interesting to me, and it has to do with me growing up in California, and having friends that live out in the desert, having
Hmm.
friends having I met one person that has what they call earth ships out there, which they go out there and they build these structures that are kind of half in the earth. They're off grid, and so they do their own water collection, their own solar energy, and so on and so forth. And this particular book was about being able to self sustain on a quarter acre of land, and
Hmm.
I thought, wow, for a family of four, and that's growing your own food, producing your own energy, and even being able to sell some of that food to the community too for a profit. So, very interesting thing. I went ahead and ordered that book. Even though I'm living in an apartment right now, but the point is that you got to check out. You got to think in terms of that. I'm always giving props and shout outs to the Black Agenda Alliance, the BAA,
Yeah.
for buying that acreage out here in North Omaha, about 8 acres, I believe. And to think about, you can self-sustain a family of four on a quarter acre, and then you got some brothers that are buying up 8 acres like that. It's like there's a lot that can happen, a lot can be done for the community, and just putting that back on your mind to buy some land and then get ready for stuff like power outages and stuff like that on that land.
Mhm.
Brother Mark Valentine says purchased a couple of gas base for about 600 a piece and a couple battery base for 400 a piece. Pricey but worth it for power outage and boondocking. Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm always constantly thinking about that. I was actually went down the rabbit hole looking at generators that made the least amount of noise because them suckers can be pretty loud.
Mm.
One time when I was living at the house over there, I was thinking about doing that because, yeah, man, you're at the mercy. As a matter of fact, this thing you were talking about that happened a couple years ago, that power failed in Texas, and it meant it reached all the way to us.
Right.
I was so mad that North Omaha was out for like 2 weeks, and other parts of the city were, 2 days they were back up, and I
Mhm.
was just like, it always puts me back in that mode. Man, we got to figure it out. Brooke in the chat says the Earth ships are amazing and reasonable cost wise. Always wanted to build one. Yeah, it's man.
Yeah.
You grew up in California, man. You be thinking about that kind of stuff out in the desert.
Yeah, I see like a few of the like documentaries and shows of people making those like the homemaker shows and stuff about that, but I never like knew anybody to do it. That's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. That's funny, man. Earth
It does.
ships.
It kind of look like it's outer space too when you go out there. The desert sand is kind of all white, and they got these like white structures kind of protruding out of the ground with these
Mm.
different color windows and stuff. And some people made them out of old tires, made like walls and things out of stacked up tires and stuff like. It's a trip. But what's exciting about it is that they are off grid, like all the
Right,
way.
right.
So
But I mean, it is something that you have to think about. It's definitely something that you have to think about. And then, of course, there's just a whole national energy grid and reliance on fossil fuels is another conversation that needs to be had out of this. Of course, we talk about. Me personally talk about the flooding, mitigation in Omaha and global warming. It's a real thing, but also cooling off. Like, how does when it gets cold, how does that affect our livelihoods and what kind of sources of energy are we using? Of course, not just cost wise, but health wise. We talk about the coal plant in North Omaha. Again, Holly Bender, who's a senior director of energy campaigns for the Sierra Club, is talking about using these kind of fossil plants, fossil fuels is the wrong strategy. She says whether it's water shortages in the summer, or frozen coal piles, and short fuel supply in the winter, fossil fuels like coal and gas struggle through extreme weather. In addition to the public health, environmental, and climate impacts, fossil fuels are increasingly unreliable. Think about the gas prices spiking over the summer, and climate or excuse me, unreliable and contributing to energy insecurity and unpredictable price spikes. Again, as I just mentioned, that impact the most vulnerable members of our communities the most. So again, have a plan, y'all. Have a plan because again, when these things go bad, as we see, we're the ones that you know, have to pay the most. As we say, it's very expensive to be poor, if you will. And again, season 4 is about following the money. It's not just following what's going on with public money, not just going what's going on with tax dollars, but what are you doing with your dollars? How are you preparing to make sure that you survive through the winter?
good questions. I'd like to put it out to the chat and those listening on the radio channel as well. Let us know what you guys do. Brother Enomar Valentine started it off talking about generators, which is power. These days are some of the most important things. But when I was when I was looking at that commercial last night on that book that I bought, they made a very good point. The lifeblood and veins of any property, any home, and any life is water. What are you
Yeah.
doing about water? And that's going to be the next crisis that's building up to happen in our country in the world. Period. And so yeah, figure that part out. Look, what do you do for water? You got land. You're gonna put a well on it. We join our native brothers and sisters in watching the water and in protecting the waterways, so that we can have that. I mean, there's a lot to think about when it comes to those things, and that's something that's very far away from our community sometimes because, just like everything else, we're consumers. So, and not really part of the power structure sometimes when it comes to stuff like utilities. So it's another thing to get into. We talk about politics and stuff like this a lot, but you can also figure out what you're doing with MUD and OPPD. These are all companies that you can have a say in as well if you're in the right sphere. So something to look at, something to think
Yeah.
about.
I mean, again, especially with North Omaha and the history of that coal plant and lead, in the area. And if I'm not mistaken, OPPD is one of the only like public power companies in the country.
Public power, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we definitely, have a stake in the game and have cause to make sure these types of different energies and things are being considered. I remember early in the Mine and Soul days, we are Chris. I forget his last name. But he's the representative of the North Omaha NRD, Natural Resource District for the OPPD board. I forget his name. Cool cat, cool cat. You'll see him in community a lot. But I remember just talking to him about solar, the possibility of solar things and just other forms of energy and what he was trying to do in the community. Those things can happen and can impact our bottom line, if you will, if we just keep it on front of mind and fight.
There you go. Brother Valentine says, good thing about the battery based generators, I have them hooked up to solar panels to charge and recharge. There you
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Yeah, man. That's the what's up. Wanda Lewis says utility companies do not like it when people totally live off the grid. I read a couple of articles about people who live out in the rural places, not necessarily in Nebraska, but they've condemned their houses because of them living off the grid and their
Mm.
electrical and water sources. They also get upset when people have windmills, which was a common thing back in the days. Yeah, this is very interesting that you're bringing this up. This is another reason why you got to make sure you get the right people in seats because they have made like water retention and stuff like that against the law. there's a lot going on. Yeah, Kimmer Snipes says Fred Connolly. Yeah, that's a good call. I think he's part of no, that's not the person we were talking about, but I
No.
do realize that he's on those committees now. I can't remember which committee he's on, but I did see that, or he was running for one to keep an eye on those things as well. So that might be somebody we can talk to or see what's up now. But yeah, they've made places where it's against the law to capture water,
Yeah, man.
capture
Rainwater.
rainwater, right? And to do any and to use water sources or do anything off the grid. Utility companies have lobbies, and they will push politicians to make laws to make it hard. So it's another like everything you do, everything you want to do. Trust me, the fight that they constantly fight in California to have those earthships to make sure the politicians don't come in there and make it against the law to live off the grid because that they've done that before. They had to fight to get to where they're at now to do that. So that's very interesting stuff, man. Rome's review says keep bottles of water in empty spaces in your freezer will stay frozen longer. Kimber Snipes is the NRD, talking about Fred Connolly. Black
No. That's
What's that?
no, I was saying I'm answering Kimberly. No, that's not who I was talking about. She's answering Fred Connolly
Yeah.
from the NRD. No.
No. I think that's what he was. I think he ran for that now, I'm not sure what the status is. She says he's been on it for years. Okay, talking about the organization there.
Okay. I'm actually talking about Eric Williams. That's what I was talking about.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but like I said, I did see on the ballot that Fred Connolly was running for something. I don't know if he won, but it had to do with the environment there. So it might be somebody talking to now. Black Dynamite says, "Yeah, I don't understand why Omaha, Nebraska doesn't have wind or solar farms like over in Iowa. Could be because it's against the law to have windmills now or something. So we need to see."
Well,
Brother Don, go ahead.
there was a report of a solar farm in where it's supposed to be like a $20 million solar farm. I did hear about that earlier this year. I'm not sure if where that was, but there's supposed to be something like that.
Big business is different from you having one in your home. They were trying to make it so that you still have to buy from somebody all the time. Brother Valentine says, but there's other areas that are embracing this. Yeah, find those areas, figure it out. And also, really like for those of us who don't want to move out of North Omaha, there still should be some solutions. I do think you have to pay attention to who's in the seats and what they're saying about those kinds of laws. I mean, it's just like everything else. Whatever it is you're interested in, there's going to be somebody trying to control that, and you got to kind of figure out what to do about it. Amy Huffless says, good morning. Kimber Snipe says, OPPD. Is that where Brother Connolly's at?
No, Eric Williams. He's the vice chair of the board at OPPD. And, I'm not sure where Brother Connolly is at.
Yeah. Let me find out. Black Dynamite says, I knew some guy back in the day who had a house with 3 or 4 fireplaces up in Raven Oaks. He ran them most of the winter. One year, and MUD wrote him and asked him what's going on. How come you ain't using enough? Well, you ain't how come you don't turn your heat on, bro? I'm seeing what
you ain't cold. You ain't cold.
We call everybody whose bill is $14. We got to find out what's going on.
How are you doing this?
That's crazy, man. Yeah, interesting stuff. I think about that all the time too. Living in an apartment, I'm just like, man, it's basically it's up to the apartment, but whether or not we got energy and water and everything else is going on, no say on none of that. That's just is what it is.
Yeah.
Not saying that everybody got to go out here and build an earthship, but like, just go to. I guess we'll just go to Valentine's house when it goes down. Just playing.
Hey, I'm just letting y'all know, man. Just letting y'all know. Spread your dollars, direct your dollars, and be aware. That's all. But it is about 7:34 or 8:34 or 3:34, depending on where you are. So yeah. If you believe in the concept of time, what you think? You want to keep it moving or jump into a quick break? Yeah. We got Bridget coming up, so we'd like to keep that in mind.
Yeah, let's keep it moving.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and pivot and actually kind of keep on the same thought train and pivot from in the urban area to some people who definitely could tell us about living off the grid and doing for themselves, our brothers and sisters over on the reservations. Can I hear that?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. But yes, our brothers and sisters on the reservation. Again, this is our feature story from flatwaterfreepress.org. Big shout out to our partners over there. But this is actually from Tim Trudell, who is a native freelance writer. So again, as me and Paul were kind of talking before the show, you mentioned that's an anomaly. Not many, again, native freelance writers out there. So big shout out to brother Tim Trudell for writing this article. And also shout out to the brothers and sisters at the iSanti School, community school in Niobrara, who recently reached 100% graduation rate 2 years running. That's according to school leaders who say that's all attributed to a new cultural program which immerses students in the tribe's language, history, and customs for as long as an hour each school day. The move to embrace the Santee culture at the main school in the Santee Dakota reservation hasn't always gone smoothly. Of course, over the last years, there was actually a teacher dust-up that was related to teaching of the Santee culture, which actually led to 3 teachers being suspended and 1 being banned from the reservation altogether. However, school administrators on the elementary and middle school level feel like they do have something good and have it figured out. Saying that the new program is improving student enthusiasm and improving student performance. The proof, of course, is in the graduation rate, which is above their mark, which was 80%. Now, again, 100% over the last 2 years. And even the attendance rate is going up. The school is reportedly on track to surpass the attendance goal of 88%. And I just find this article very, very interesting as, again, the only thing that's causing this change and this enthusiasm is the teaching of the students' culture. And we always talk about, what's going on in OPS. And again, it's not just a shout at OPS, shout out to Dr. Logan, shout out to the board members that are doing the good work. But let's just call it what it is. Public school is definitely lacking in cultural sensitivity, cultural education. Paul, if you remember early on in the first Sky days, we had the panel with the students who were fighting to get their culture recognized. And, shout out to a lot of the student activists, especially in South Omaha, who are working for that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this? Again, shout out to the brothers in the iSanti, or brothers and sisters in the iSanti reservation. And this is again for the Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota Sioux tribes. So yeah, shout out to the native brothers and sisters.
Yeah, this is interesting, man. This is like this is kind of we've been talking about this for the entirety of the show, really. I remember early on, I think it was Brother Muhammad, and I remember talking to Brother Valentine too about this, about how, and Brother Von Chapman, about like why would kids want to go to school if nothing is directed to them at all. If there's nothing that is directed to you for learning about you, to you, then why would you have an interest in it at all? Like, especially as a kid coming up. So yeah, so doing things that are based in your culture and your reality is how you will get anybody to be interested in what it is that you're trying to teach them or whatever. So yeah, this is kind of proof of concept right here with
Man,
this
all the way.
100% graduation rate, proof of
All the way.
concept.
And of course, you can't take the history out of it for many years. Again, this school wasn't teaching the history because they weren't allowed to. Again, more than 150 years ago, federal agents ordered students at the Santee Normal Training School. Just hear the name of that. It's just the Santee Normal Training School. On the Santee Sioux Reservation in Knox County to forget their native language. That's according to Reverend Thomas, who's the iSantee School cultural director. They forbade the efforts of the Episcopalian ministers running the school to balance education in English in Dakota, saying as long as Santee students are confined to their own language, they will be Indians. That's according to Santee reservation agent Asa Janey.
Heaven forbid, huh?
Right. The federal government's goal, of course, was to force assimilation, killing off the Indian inside students and who already had been ordered to cut their hair short and required to wear Western clothing. And if you remember that story several years ago, I believe he was a wrestler, the wrestling student or athlete who was forced to cut his hair at a meet. Again, that mentality, is still not the same, but it's still present. And then, of course, we tie in the history of the graves that are being found at some of the other native schools in the community. So this is a beautiful story to come out of that history, for there to be that perseverance, for there to be Native brothers and sisters on the reservation now learning about their culture. And that goes back to my weekend again, why it's important that I take my children and I'm a part of a Moorish Science Temple, because again, if you know anything about Moorish Science, it's teaching the culture of so-called African Americans pre-slavery. Like again, what we're doing pre-slavery, that history is well documented. But if you're not taught your culture, if you don't aren't taught who you are, then you don't know.
Yeah, man. Very true. Very true. It's I was just thinking about it's funny, earlier you were talking about going back to school, and you don't know about that, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, I don't know about going back to school either, but I do know this past weekend I had to write a list of things down that I gotta do some deep diving into.
Hmm.
Education education never stops, learning never stops. Like, you got to continue on whether you do it formally or not. And I just thought about, like, I have to jump on these things, but these are all things that I have chosen for myself, that what it is that I want to know, that I think is relevant to me in my life and my family's life. And it just reinforces this idea, man. You got to be learning things that's relevant to you and your culture. If there's no sensitivity to a person's culture, how are they even able to learn a thing that you have not put in the context of their culture? Like,
Right.
how would we even be able to learn that? So, so you can, for instance, I'm trying to learn more financial literacy right now. So, if I think about, well, how do I sure up my financial situation and my family's financial situation? That's one thing to learn all these things, but how do I incorporate them in my daily life, in the way that the way that I do things, and how I spend money every day, or or my thought process when it comes to do with, like, if I don't think in terms of, from in terms of where I come from, what my culture is, and what I think and what I believe. If I don't make that connection between the knowledge and my culture, I won't figure out how to do this. And like I said, I just can't imagine how anybody is learning anything when that connection is just not being made.
Mm-hmm.
They always try to act like we're so bad in school, but who want to learn? I'm not trying to learn about every European on earth that ever lived, all the time when I'm in school. Like, can I learn about something else? Can you teach me about my culture, my
Yeah.
history? So,
Um, Yeah, yeah. I mean that goes right along to this other article that shout out to Senator Terrell McKinney, put some respect on his name,
yeah.
dropped on us in regards to Black and Native children being overrepresented in the Nebraska child welfare system. Of course, we talk about the St. Francis Ministry situation, but who are those children that are falling through the cracks as a result of that? And of course, we know that they're overwhelmingly Black and Native, so-called Black and Native. um and it definitely, again, as I said, like a lot of those mentalities are not overtly there. We don't have like this photo floating around of um I forget his name, Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, when he was 14. I'm sure you're not a big sports guy, but I'm sure you heard of this photo
Oh,
that's floating around.
because of
uh, uh
LeBron. That's
Man,
why I heard about it. Yeah.
but it's out there, it's out there. So again, times aren't quite that, but they're still the same. You know what I mean? As far as you look at the number of young quote unquote Black boys who are looked at, and the studies are out there as far as them being deemed criminals or just their activity, being punished in school more so than other groups.
And for those of you who don't know that situation, Jerry Jones, who is, what is Jerry Jones now? He's the owner of a team or
Yeah,
something?
he's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys football team.
They found a photo of him as a young person protesting against.
Well, he was out there. It didn't. He was out there.
He was with him. He was
Yeah,
with him.
whether he was protesting is debatable.
And what were they protesting that he might have been protesting with them?
The integration of schools, which I don't know, man. Having gone to HBCU, I'm all for having culture. I don't know, man. I kind of feel like integration. It wasn't integration, man. It was forced assimilation. Like we
Yeah.
didn't integrate. We didn't integrate. We lost our culture just to be a part of this larger culture.
Well, they did the same thing to us that they did to Native Americans. They just
Right.
called it
Integration.
something. They called it something else than they did for the Native American schools. They called those Native American schools, like, schools to make you American, schools to take you away from being Indian. Like, it was real blatant with them, but it wasn't as blatant with us. But they were trying to assimilate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only way to be successful in this country. That is what is their argument is, to assimilate to. This is what it is, and
Oh,
it's almost like, just to have a culture, you fight that all the time. You always are fighting that to keep your culture, to it's really interesting to have to fight to keep your culture on all kinds of different levels. On the level of, they want to assimilate you, also they want to steal your culture. I mean, it's like it's battle for the culture
hello,
all the time. Uh,
hello.
just jumping in the chat real quick. Kimmer Snipes says, I was at a school board conference and the guest speaker at a luncheon was native. He said he had more chances of reading about a truck in school than his own culture. Even still, Brother
Man,
Wells is talking about, kill the Indian, save the child. That was an actual slogan that they used back in the day, like, just blatant with it, bro.
man,
Can you imagine if they're like, just like, kill the black, kill the Negro, save the child, as if you're going to be saved by assimilating to. And what's really cold about it is they wouldn't even, our assimilation was different, because we can't blend in like they assimilated Irish, like they
mm,
assimilated other races, because
mhm.
they consider them white. You just had to act white. You just had to, like, act white but still be second class. Like, really, really mind blowing stuff, to be honest. Um, so anyway, yeah, and even though it's not as blatant as it was back in the day, this is still going on now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and in some instances, it's even still blatant. I mean, you look at what's going on in schools in Detroit. Um, Man, some of those I remember several. I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago now. There was a report, and I'll never forget these pictures of schools. I believe in Detroit and Baltimore that were open throughout the winter that didn't have running water, that didn't have heat, that were so old, like the books were molded and falling apart. Like this is still going on to this day.
Yeah.
You
Matter of
know,
fact, that show, Abbott Elementary. I just saw an
man,
episode last
man,
night where she was like, "Are these new books? They're not. Look at they're not moldy. Like it's now, it's, even put it in comedy now because it's so common.
right.
Messed up. Black Dynamite says Jerry Jones has always rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah, well, there's a whole lot of white folks rub me the wrong way sometimes, especially from that era where they were really trying to block things from, block the citizenry of other human beings. Like, it's
Mhm.
really what breaks it down. So messed up. 7:48 already. If you believe in the concept of time, we got a guest waiting in the wings, and we'll go ahead and bring the guest on. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Bridget Fogarty in the house, one of my favorite people in the world. How are you today?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm
All
doing
right, all
great. I'm
right.
doing great.
Happy Monday.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Happy Monday. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you as always. So I don't know how much of the conversation you heard, but definitely welcome to the conversation. For those who don't know, Bridget Fogarty, again, of the Omaha Reader and El Perico, joining us, and recently wrote an article on regenerative farming in the Maya youth. So another native community that's getting into, again, doing for self. And also, this is very interesting as far as the regenerative farming, because again, we did have Ying Chi Shu from Flatwater talking about the water situation, and you don't think we talked about the water, but how does that impact the soil? So yeah, definitely. How did you kind of come about this story? What is regenerative farming, and what is being done about it in the community?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's really great to be here and talking about a story that I first kind of learned about back in June, and then reported from June to August. And so to be able to have it in our new November issue and talk about it in December is really exciting. And regenerative farming essentially is a process of sustainable farming that it the practices, like, research based and science shows that it can help reverse and mitigate. It's a solution to a lot of the issues that are creating, climate change in our world. So it's basically a way of restoring and kind of rebuilding the soil, and bringing more biodiversity to the soil. So the way that I got to see it kind of come to fruition was through a community group called Comunidad Maya Pishani Shim. It is an organization, indigenous-led organization of Maya folks who are living in Omaha. They are located in South Omaha, right off of South 24th Street is their organization headquarters. But this summer, nearly every Saturday, a group of kids, youth, ages, I want to say from about 8 years old, maybe 10 years old, to some people 20, sometimes coming with their parents, sometimes coming with adults. Nearly every Saturday, this group drove from Omaha to Lyons, which is about an hour and a half, an hour, 15 minutes. And they drove over to a 1/4 of an acre of land that was offered up to them for a project by Graham Christensen, who's a 5th generation Nebraskan farmer. And they used regenerative agriculture techniques, which really in definition are indigenous agriculture techniques. So, farming techniques that are, one with the way that a lot of their ancestors were doing farming. It's a way that's, helpful and beneficial to the earth and isn't as extractive. They use this 1/4 of an acre of land that was offered up to them to basically do this, smaller scale of what they want to do on a large scale of rebuilding the soil and bringing in multiple crops at once, not just one crop, and bringing a harvest. So the one way that was really, really important to them was using the MILPA system, MILPA. And the MILPA system is an indigenous crop growing system. So you think of, the fields you drive out of Omaha, drive out of Douglas County, and Burke County is where Lyons is. You look at the fields out there, and the majority of the fields are just a monoculture, one crop. The quintessential rows and rows of corn. You see that, but then when you got to this 1/4 of an acre of land, it was really just looking more like some wild grass, as it was in the first day of first day of planting in June that I visited. It really just looked like, a budding field. There were some different, there's some weeds, there's some different types of crops. And that's because that MILPA system is a way of spreading and scattering 40 different types of seeds, all within one area. So it's like a little community, of really an ecosystem of all sorts of different crops. And the whole point of it is that the biodiversity of the bugs, insects, everything in nature is working together in a cycle to create this harvest, as people have done for years before chemicals existed.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
And so to juxtapose that, like crops like corn, although kind of native, they can be definitely, if it's the only crop in the soil, it can be, that's what's causing the soil to go bad. Of course, in addition to like some of the water and things, but is that correct? Like some of the crops, like just solely corn, is what's extracting from the soil.
Yeah. So what is extracting from the soil is the way that the machinery and the techniques that larger corporations or some farmers will be using to get the single crop there. So while that biodiversity is really great for the soil, what is really hurting our topsoil, which is, topsoil is the uppermost layer of the soil where the vast majority of food grows. So it's one of the most important parts of our world's food system. But research shows that when widely used chemical heavy farming techniques that paired with climate change are spoiling the earth's topsoil at really rapid rates. So this hurts the ability to filter water and absorb carbon and produce food. And that's why this regenerative farming movement of having biodiversity in the field is really a proven solution to kind of combat some of those issues that farmers are seeing today with their soil. And so I'm not sure exactly if it's just that, single crop that is the issue, but I think what's mostly the issue is that the way that you're bringing the crop forward, and mostly, chemical heavy machinery, that type of way that most of the food is grown.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go to the chat?
I was gonna go to the chat. Yeah. Also, yeah. Just want to jump in real quick too. Juana Lewis had a good question. Does anyone know? What does anyone happen to know why Bill Gates and other billionaires are buying large acres of farmland throughout the U.S. to include Nebraska and Iowa? That's a good question to think
Mm,
about for a second. And I'm also thinking just about Nebraska and Iowa. This, it's very unpopular opinion that you need to change up farming techniques out here, where we're in states that have rows and rows and rows and rows of huge farms, monoculture farms, if you will, and it just takes me back. It reminds me about like why some areas of the world are deserts, and
mm,
and it blew my mind to find out that sometimes they're man-made situations. The Dust Bowl situation that happened back in the what was it 20s and 30s came from a monoculture that they finally dried up the topsoil, dried up the land so bad that they couldn't grow anything anymore, and it turned into this place called the Dust Bowl. A lot of white folks was had to travel west, had to get away from there because they couldn't afford to do anything anymore. So it's just interesting that there's so much of that going on, and because it's so finance driven that even with proof of concept that this stuff doesn't work, they're going to continue on with it. Brooks in the chat says, I'll never forget the several weeks at North High where the whole school tried to replicate the Harlem Renaissance. I
mm.
don't think that would have happened without Principal Mr. Hayes. Oh, okay, she's on another idea, but yeah, I love that. And I thought she was going to say something about what North High North High has had some ties with learning some engineering techniques. It was
Yep.
also, but Buddy, I'm sure you can speak to this more.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like engineering processes and to figure out how to be able to grow food. I mean,
Yeah.
every school in Nebraska is going to have some tie to agriculture, some kind of way.
Well, speaking specifically of North, again, I always remember that project that we were working on. There were like several engineering classes working jointly on a project that students accompanied this project, but we were building um like someone engineered a stove. Like it was a stove that you can use, like you can press, organic matter into basically kind of like a coal brick, and then use that organic matter to cook in the villages of Kinjavatu, which is on the island of Madagascar, of course, of the southern coast of Africa. So yeah, that's like those types of things are definitely happening in the Omaha area with some of our students. But I'm kind of you kind of see me over here like smiling and nodding, Paul, because it's funny in these conversations we're always on the same page, and it's always one mind, one thought. It just always blows my mind because that's exactly where I was going. As far as I wasn't going to the Dust Bowl, and it's crazy that you went that far with it. But I'm thinking of like what Sister Wanda Lewis is saying. What are the billionaires and what is the money economics behind this? I just saw a story this morning. I didn't really pull it, but billionaire Ricketts was just in Japan on a whole mission to push that whole side of that business, big agri side of it. A mission to build international trade of these mono crops. Corn and soy and all of these things that we know ruin the soil. So it's just funny the juxtaposition, and I didn't even have to make it, Paul. You made the point for me. But
Well,
also,
mhm.
and then also I was going to think of the cultural aspect of what we were talking about, as far as just having the cultural education and looking at things from a cultural perspective rather than a machinery, capitalistic perspective. Because in African culture as well, not just Native American, but African culture, I've learned through that, studying my culture, about different crop rotations and how we as farmers survived after slavery. Like that's a part of our culture. And you take that out of the schools, you take that out, then this is what you get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, big time. Kateri Kitten in the chat says, "Good morning. Thank you guys for covering this, and then thank you, Bridget, for deep diving. I love the fact that you said that you started this process in the summertime. So this has been
Mm.
a serious deep dive. What are some of the things that stood out to you just personally, like thinking about your history and your connection to any of these kinds of subjects? What stood out to you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I just felt really grateful to be welcomed back twice. Luis Marcos, who is the co-executive director and founder of Pishani Shim, he welcomed me in when I just was wondering about the program. Actually, when in June or July, in June, I started reporting a story about sustainable farming, city gardens, kind of just like doing a roundup of where can you do any farming in the city. And to your point, Buddi, that you're talking about, like, I think that when I think of, climate change, and I think of like, the power that corporations have and stuff, it can feel really heavy. And it's very true, like the power that a lot of these, wealthier folks or corporations do have. But what is amazing is like the tiny efforts, and not even tiny, like larger scale efforts too, of schools, of, community gardens, of, I'm thinking like Omaha permaculture, the City Sprouts, there's so many different groups that might be in different areas that like collectively have the same goal. And so I always like, going to that like there's so many little efforts that maybe you don't see all at once because they're not, this big corporation staring you in the face. And something that I did learn when I was, out there in the field with Pishani Shim was Graham Christensen, who's the farmer who offered the land up for them. And we can talk more about that too, because land access to be able to do this indigenous farming that is good for the soil. The majority of farmers, Luis was talking about, was telling me the majority of farmers in Nebraska are white. And so it's like, who's got access to that land? So they were able to get this access to land. And Graham Christensen was saying, as this regenerative agriculture movement does grow and becomes more popular, he's got a group that's focused on grassroots development, mobilization, education to build more regenerative communities. It's called GC Resolve. I'm sorry. There's also Regenerate Nebraska. That's a network of farmers, tribes, different organizations that are trying to shift Nebraska from conventional agriculture towards more regenerative food production. So he was talking about all these great efforts. And then he also was saying that as regenerative agriculture becomes more widely used, there's also this high risk for corporations and organizations to start kind of greenwashing the technique, which that was a word I'd never heard of, but greenwashing. Yeah. So it's basically when a group says they're committed, say in this example, to farming practices that are environmentally conscious and responsible, but then they continue to really include those chemicals or use farming techniques that go against the principles of regenerative farming. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from this story was this quote. Well, one of the biggest things was this quote that Christensen said, that he said the only way that regenerative agriculture works is if its foundation is rooted in indigenous wisdom. And that's what has to hold it strong.
Wow.
So that really spoke to me. And I think, going back to what I took away from this story was the people who came each week to work on, a piece of land that's an hour 15 away from their homes in Omaha. The folks of Comunidad Maya Pishani Shim, most of them are from, indigenous Maya territories. So that today is, known as Guatemala, El Salvador, parts of Mexico. In Nebraska, there's Luis Marcos was telling me there's approximately 10,000 folks of Maya descent, 10,000 Maya folks, and then in Omaha in particular, about 3,000. So this organization is really a support system for folks who have been here for years or are coming from, different countries. And one of the girls that I spoke with, I met her in June, and I was chatting with her. We're chatting in Spanish, and she said, I just moved to Omaha a week ago. I crossed the border before this, and we found this group because they speak the language my mom speaks. They speak Conjobal, which is one of the dialects, indigenous dialects. And so meeting her that week, weeks before, you can only imagine what she was doing to get to the U.S. And then she's in a field in Nebraska with other Maya youth, and being able to, be with kids who are like her. And she did say, like, there was a really heartwarming moment where she I was chatting with her. I'm like, how does it feel to be here? And she just kind of looked around and she's like, it's like being at home. And when I came back in August, she was like laughing, like running around. They're like yelling that they saw like a bug on the food, the crops that they're picking up, and you can see she's got like her little squad of friends, and so it's just really cool to see that growth, and to see that these young people just had this dedication to come back and get on the bus, and even if there's a flat tire, keep coming back the next week, and just have this really cool space that they're able to learn about their culture, even when, for various different reasons, they or their families have been displaced from it geographically.
Man,
That's
man.
really
Yeah.
interesting. Totally.
It goes a long way to be, surrounded with your own culture. Like it's important.
So much so. I just want to let people know, if you're just joining us, 8:06 right now, if you believe in the concept of time, we're with one of my favorite people in the world, Bridget Fogarty from The Reader, and talking about agricultural life, some very interesting things in the chat. Real quick, Kateri Kitten says native practices were viewed as savage and
Man.
behind the times, when truly we had our own scientific processes. Really, really interesting. Also, a little early in the chat, Rome's review says, I'm driving by Lyons, Nebraska as we speak. Now, see,
Man.
if we had our tech up to date and all together, then my man could be sending us shots from Lyons right now while we're talking about it. We'll have to get that
I'm
together.
singing, yeah.
Rose Rue says, farmers do crop rotation, corn in the field one year, soybeans in the field next year. That's what they call rotation. They need to do a whole little bit more rotating. Also, later on in the chat, Kateri Kitten says, I think awareness also needs to be raised on the loss of prairie land. This directly impacts the rise of CO2 and affects climate change.
Mm.
Very true. Rome's review saying cow dung can be used as heat in your home.
Yeah.
Yep, that's some Earthship stuff right there, big time. Also, Rome's review says our own lawns contribute to problems. The grass is Scottish, not native. That's really interesting thought too, to think about. The trend of grass in your front yard. You might own the house and got all this land around you, but you choose to put grass down instead of agricultural stuff. Interesting. It kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier about just self sustainability. Wanda Lewis says, I did recently see an article out of Omaha that said that they think every community should have a community garden. There was farming land in South Dakota that was taken from the Ponca native more than a century ago. A person that has inherited the land gave it back to the natives approximately 3 years ago.
Man,
That's a
that's huge.
story. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's huge. If you remember, also it was reported recently that like half of Oklahoma was supposed to be given back to the Cherokee. I believe it was a Cherokee tribe, and that included like a vast majority of Tulsa. So yeah. A lot of that, is coming back around, and a lot of that conversation is being had. And I'm glad you pointed that out. As far as the access to land and the fact that this is kind of, it's unfortunate, but this is kind of an exception, or kind of, because access to land isn't prevalent. It is in abundance. So, these things aren't more plentiful, which is sad. But the fact that this is happening is a beautiful thing. And I'm kind of curious, you said this is support for that community. What do they do with the food? Are they selling it? Do they give it to families, or from what they harvest, what do they do with it?
Yeah, so the food from their harvest, I believe in the end it was about like 300 pounds of harvest, and it's all sorts of different crops that come from the harvest, and I believe that with the organization they worked with to get that cover crop of seeds, I believe there's a kind of an agreement that you get the seeds for free if you make sure that half of the food goes back to your community. And that was their plan all along. I'm not sure if they're going to be using that organization for seeds in the future, but I know for sure that like this program that Pishani Sheem created is part of their larger vision to acquire hundreds of acres of land, of their own land, and establish a profitable and sustainable regenerative agroforestry farm operation. So that's like creating a whole entire ecosystem that would go directly back to their community that they'd be able to sell. And right now they had that plot, in Lyons, but they also have community gardens at their site in South Omaha. So they've, never let the lack of proximity to a large field, stop them from just doing this in their community garden out back in their lot. But yeah, the food did go back to the community.
That's awesome.
Nice. I just wanted to share with the people this, just to give them a visual. This is, of course, the land that we're talking about. Could you? Who is this? Who is this in the picture?
Yeah, so this is Noemi Bravo. She's the summer program leader. The program's called the First Acre Milpa program, and she works through the Latino Center of the Midlands. So it's important to mention this program was a collaboration between the Latino Center of the Midlands and Comunidad Maya Pishani Shim, and a couple of other partners, who were helping with the seeds, who were helping with different things. Graham Christensen, especially the 5th generation Nebraska farmer who offered his land, and a couple of the organizations he's a part of, GC Resolve. So Noemi was the one who coordinated the whole program and, bridged the knowledge of, how are we gonna get these kids here, and how are we gonna get out to the field? And she organized some lessons as well. So most of the lessons were, in Spanish. They also spent time at the community center. Before I even went out to the land, I joined them at the community center in South Omaha, and we sat and watched a video. They had just gone to the land maybe a week before to spread the seeds, and they brought out, a little TV and the camcorder that one of the staff members had taken some videos on, and they put it on, and they all just watched and looked at the land and talked about some of the different, farming techniques that are, historic and important to their ancestors. And so Noemi was the one who led a lot of those conversations, along with the leaders of Pishani Shim. So it was really beautiful, just a beautiful community collaboration, I feel like. And you just were there and you just felt welcomed. And every student, and on that first day of the lesson, this is one thing I will mention. Every student, they went around and talked about this program. It's a new program, it's exciting. But they went around and asked every single student, are you interested in this? It's okay if you're not, but are you? And everyone said yes. And then they said, will you have a ride there? Or do we need to help you get transportation? And will you need us to get transportation to the community center here in South Omaha? And they went through everyone's schedule. One person's oh, well, my mom works, she works that evening, so I wouldn't be able to come here Tuesdays. And they're in real time just saying, okay, so they're going to pick you up, and then we're going to figure out the car for Saturday mornings. And so it's just right there. We're going to eliminate any barriers that might keep you from coming to this. If you don't want to come to it, that's okay. But everybody in the end wanted to. It was just making sure that access was, that they knew they could access it, and they didn't have to think about, reasons why they might not be able to.
Very cool. I'm sitting here thinking right now about the BAA, the Black Agenda Alliance. I do know that they are talking about using a lot in some of the land they just bought for agriculture, and they always are putting out the word. Anybody who wants to partner, groups come help, especially because they would like to learn more about this. Hooking them up with that group, or hooking them up with other indigenous groups to help them learn that proper way of cultivating that land might be to an advantage. So I'm just in my mind making connections there, but very interesting stuff. And I think that especially in the context of us thinking about being self-sustainable, and we're always talking about land. We're always talking about how in order for you to shore up your self-sufficiency and economic base, you got to own land. We're talking about the land bank land. We're talking about community gardens all the time. In the grand scheme of things, this is a really encouraging, interesting thing to look at, and really, really happy that you decided to tackle this, because it's bringing a lot of great information to the forefront. So appreciate that. Wanda Lewis says at the Malcolm X Center, they do not allow genetically modified seed to be planted in their gardens. Someone took it upon themselves to plant suspect plants that had to be removed.
Man, yeah. No cross-pollination. You can ruin the whole crop, with those bad seeds. And there's some countries that, went as far as just burning whole crops of Monsanto seeds and things like that. So, yeah. I mean, it's still very important in many, many cultures around the world as far as our agriculture. And I do want to think. I think Wanda Lewis mentioned the article about the community gardens. Omaha World Herald recently wrote an article talking about Luis Marcos. And I believe Metro had an event over the weekend, a soil expo. Are you familiar with that, Bridget?
Yeah, I wasn't able to go, but I saw that it was happening.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, there you go. Shout out to Metro Community College, and all the organizations. I believe City Sprouts was there as well, whom you mentioned. Again, gather for the Omaha Urban Soil Health Expo, which is a conference on sustainable urban farming, restorative agriculture, and soil health. So the conversation is being had on a grand level. Like, nice to see people in the community coming together, and let's make sure everyone is at the table for that, because again, this is a perfect way to solve some of the food deserts in the community. But again, thank you for your coverage of this.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking about it. And I mean, I loved writing this story, and every time I feel like every time I get to write a story and meet a new group of people, it's just like reminds me of why Omaha is so special.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, anything coming up that you're working on now that we'll be talking about in 6 months too?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to plug this story was from our previous issue in print for November, but it is December now, and we have a new issue that's going to be hitting the stands this week. The piles of paper came in from the printer on Thursday, and that issue is, you've got a lot of great stories in here. One that I will highlight really quick is we looked at the ahead of this, major investment in North and South Omaha. The University of Nebraska Omaha's Center for Public Affairs Research, they did two different kind of research or analysis of. They compiled a bunch of data on North and South Omaha, and key challenges, key strengths. They did that whole SWOT assessment, which I just kind of learned about. I think it's called. Yeah, they did a whole assessment of challenges, weaknesses, strengths, and opportunities. And I think it's something that a lot of your listeners probably already are looking at, or would be interested in looking at kind of the breakdown. So that's going to be on page 11 in our new issue. And I just dropped that link to you guys. Maybe we can share it in the chat, and you can pick up your paper in print this week too.
There you go.
I would definitely encourage picking it up in print, because remember, it's got the reader on the front, it's got El Perico on the back, and kind of like upside down. You turn it around, you got a whole nother paper there. So I always love to push the print so that you can have best of both worlds. And just to remind people too, El Perico has its own articles, and it's also in English as well as Spanish. So I know a lot of people were like, well, I don't, isn't El Perico just Spanish? No, not just Spanish. They have you got a lot of great articles from great writers that are there too, that enhance the whole magazine piece. So very, very cool stuff. Yep.
Yeah. And in this issue of El Perico, lots of stories on jobs. So, places like, it's mainly a lot of different stories about where you can go get some training for some of those they call them high skill, high demand jobs. And tips on interviews, things like that. So it was our jobs issue.
Okay.
We'll
definitely check it out.
Nice. And if I'm not mistaken, you did an article on mental health as well. Is that in that issue?
Yeah. So Chris Bowling will be doing an article on mental health, in particular with the justice system. But our job, Rawal, who does the jobs column or job stories, he worked on a story on the shortage of mental health workers. So you can find that in the issue too.
Man, okay, nice. Definitely love to talk to him when he gets back from India. But I see he's living it up. But yes, again, we would love to hold on to you, could speak to you all day, but we appreciate you. The link for the new issue again is in the chat currently, so make sure you check that out and get you a fresh issue on stands near you. So yeah, big shout out to the reader squad. We appreciate you. We love you. We thank you.
We love you right back, First Sky. Thank you.
A really good time hanging with you guys the other night. That was like the highlight of my month. So
yeah, that was so fun. Got to get some media collabs going more often.
Yes.
Pop says she's always so informative. Great guest always. You are a great guest always. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate you coming through. We'll see you soon.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great week.
All
You
right.
too. Peace.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back and jump into some more stories. Thank you so much for allowing us to spend a little extra time with Bridget Fogarty from The Reader, one of my favorite people in the world, one of the best writers and that we got in the city too, man. Dives deep, gets busy with it. So that's what's up. Appreciate her very much. We'll take a quick break. Again, you're listening to First Sky Omaha Radio. First Sky Omaha in the morning.
In the morning.
Paul B, Buddi3 Da Gawd, all of you chat chimers, ghost listeners, stay tuned. We'll be right back, y'all. Yo. Welcome back.
Hey.
First Sky Omaha Radio. First Sky Omaha in the morning.
In the morning.
Paul B, Buddi3 Da Gawd, all of you chat chimers, ghost listeners, appreciate you guys all joining us over on the YouTube channel. Tell a friend. We're going to be over on YouTube exclusively coming soon. We're already not with Twitter anymore. We kind of bailed out of that spot. We're not broadcasting on Friends of First Sky Omaha anymore. Right now, it's going to be First Sky Omaha, the Facebook page, until the end of the season, which is on the 16th. Then it'll be exclusively on YouTube from then on out. If you want to watch previous shows, you can go back and watch them in the entirety on YouTube. You just have to hit the live button when you get to the page, and you can see all the previous shows as well. So thank you very much for everybody that's joined in with us and that's making this transition, following us over. That's what this thing is all about right now is, we'll have some really good conversations that we can continue to have. We're not going to change the format because this is all about a conversation with you and about the things that are affecting us in our community, just like we talked about a little bit earlier about the indigenous schools that are turning out 100% graduation rates.
Man.
Just by talking about things that are relevant to them. So we're trying to do the same thing here. Brianna Full in the chat, good morning to you, says BAA should link up with my friend Clarice. She grows an African diaspora garden on 24th and Pratt.
Okay.
I've actually talked to Clarice. She's actually a really, really cool sis. And we talked about doing an interview with her and kind of following her around a little bit to check out this garden that she's all about. And, to find out about a little background, how she got into that. So definitely a cool person. Oh, she's over there at the Fabric Lab. She also works at the Fabric Lab. If you guys have been over there, you've seen her before. Very interesting person, and would love to catch up with her and find out what's going on with her and her gardening. And Brianna Full, you're right. I think everybody should connect with her on some things too. We got a lot of resources all around when it comes to growing our own food and so on. Wanda Lewis in the chat says, "Look what happened approximately 4 years ago to the black farmers in the South. They will. She says they went to a farmers expo to buy large quantities of seeds that never grew. They were told that their land was no longer fertile for growing. They took the seeds to a laboratory in another state. They found out that the seeds were intended not to grow in order to rob them of their land. They are still in litigation with the seed company to this day." Woo!
Was that Monsanto?
I don't know. That is crazy, man. That is crazy. Can you imagine if you didn't know? You buy this seed, it's not growing. They're like, your land's jacked. You might even consider selling it off for cheap just to get out from underneath the land.
Man,
That's rough.
could have fell for the okie doke. I'm glad they had at least enough, fortitude and foresight to like, hey, let's test these seeds first.
You try to hoodwink them.
Man,
It
with the
was
okie doke.
running amok. It was ridiculous.
Man, led astray.
Led astray. Pop says that so far it's being 100% YouTube. A great benefit is that the chat chimers will be able to see all comments. Very cool. Yeah, I like that.
There you go. There you go.
Thanks for the link, Wanda Lewis. I'll definitely look into that. That's real crazy. That's a really interesting story there.
It happens though. It happens. It happens more than we know.
We'll have to have a continued discussion about legacy seeds and those types of things too, because this is more to it. And I was just thinking about that water. We were just talking about the water the other day and how it's got all these nitrates in it that causes child cancer and all kinds of stuff. The nitrates are coming from fertilizer, so who knows? Maybe the water is good for the home garden right now, right about now. But I don't know. Nitrates. I don't know how nitrates gets dispersed in the garden. After you put them down on the garden, who knows? It could be what's causing cancer. Who knows what it is? But I just found it interesting that for some reason things have shifted to this idea of water, land, seeds, agriculture, grow. Self sustainability. It's all happening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Marianne Williams says, I follow many Black and brown farmers and off-grid residents on TikTok. Interesting. Some may have some really informative content from apartment growing to full-fledged farms. Wow.
Okay. I mean, it's, more than dance challenges on TikTok.
I mean, I guess it's all what you're interested in on TikTok. We've got everything there. So
yeah, more than dance challenges, I guess.
I guess so.
Okay. Yeah, that's informative.
It is. I might have to check that out, especially with the apartment growing. I am looking at these big pots of plants, thinking, I wonder if I can grow some lettuce in this same one I got the thing in. So we'll see what's happening. 8:27 right now. If you believe in the concept of time, let's jump into some other stuff before we get to the haps a little later on. Get your haps together too. I know it's Monday. We don't necessarily have a big haps section on Monday, but if there's something going on this week, we definitely want to talk about it. So let's definitely check out.
Yeah. So keeping it moving, man. Kind of mentioned the story earlier, but I want to give it, its full just due in conversation. Big shout out to brother Senator Terrell McKinney. Put some respect on his name. Who is making moves, even though. Again, the legislation or legislators are not in session. Brother McKinney still doing the work. He's recently launched a legislative study of the outsized number of so-called Black and Native children in Nebraska's child welfare system. He said their disproportionately high involvement contributes to the broader problems facing Black and Native communities. He says the disproportionality is a driver in low education outcomes, low health outcomes, involvement in the juvenile justice system, and in adult prison sentences, says Senator McKinney. He went on to say the child welfare system in Nebraska is horrible, which, of course, we've been talking about over the last several years in regards to the St. Francis Ministries, all of the hoopla surrounding that. And then even, of course, the transition from St. Francis to Nebraska state managing those cases, and now it being reported that situation might even has gotten worse. According to McKinney's study, which is among recent efforts to rethink long-standing disparities in child welfare, and also in light of the racial reckoning brought by, of course, George Floyd of 2020, former Minneapolis police officer, of course, convicted in that death. And now some advocates are drawing parallels between law enforcement and the child welfare system, suggesting that child welfare be renamed the Family Regulation System or Family Surveillance System for its effects on minority communities, which, again, you go back, I don't know how many of y'all watch Atlanta, but they're always on point, again, to that whole episode of the kid who was taken from his family. If you don't know it, just go back, check it out. I believe season 4. But while the internet is to provide supports and services to ensure the intent is to provide support and services to ensure these families can safely remain together. The system does not always accomplish this and can have the opposite effect. Of course, according to Allison Durr, who's a senior staff attorney for Nebraska Appleseed, who wrote this in a blog post in May. She said children and families very frequently emerge from the system even more traumatized and harmed, with their families invaded, policed, separated, and thrown into cycles of systems involvement in poverty. Kind of going to that paternalism that you always talk about, Paul, that mentality and the effect that it can have on the parents, the children, the family dynamic as a whole, and the impact that has on the preschool to prison pipeline. It's all one driving force, and it's all one train in the wrong direction. So
Wow.
yeah. Again, shout out to Senator McKinney for launching this study. Hopefully the intent of this study is to draft some legislation or to come up with something again to help shore up Nebraska's child welfare system. And of course, we are calling a prison state. You know, how do they know that these prisons are going to be full? Where are they expecting all of these criminals to come from? How do they know that they need to build more prisons before the other prison is even finished building?
So true. Well, one reason is because they are overcrowded right now. So
There you go.
yeah, that was the reasoning behind them saying that juvenile justice center was already going to be too small because they have overcrowded the one they have now with way more kids than they are been beds they're about to build. So that's one way that they're doing that. But it really is just that. It's like it's an industry out here. It's an industry out here, and they feel
Man,
like if they hire more police officers, be cracking down on more crime and more people go to jail. And that's just can you imagine that being part of your plan, part of the infrastructure of your city is this to think in those terms instead of like what can we do to assist people to get out of poverty so they not tempted to be criminals and
nope.
so on and so forth.
Nope.
Interesting, man. So and then of course like always it's disproportionately affecting black and brown kids, and that's what it is. So yeah, shout out to Brother Terrell McKinney for always shining a light on these things, just like he does. That's what's up. The chat is going off pretty good about farming still a little bit. Brianna Full says a lot of black farmers in North Omaha. Stephanie Finklia, Decker, Gabriel Woods.
Okay.
Black Dynamite says my wife has been trying to get me to join TikTok. It sounds really interesting. I just can't do it at least yet. Yeah, avoid it if you can. It's a time
Yeah.
you'll be up in the middle of the night watching for 4 hours and wonder what happened. Brother Valentine says Brother Terrace Michael Cook was educating North Omaha years ago about urban farming and being resourceful.
Okay.
Pop says about the seeds. This world is filled with wolves and sheep.
Mm.
We sheep have to learn that wolves don't think the way we do, and we have to protect ourselves by not taking everything at face value. Yeah, man. I mean, people selling bad seeds been going on for probably hundreds of years,
Man.
trying to mess with people. Wanda Lewis is a friend of mine, lives in the HOA here in Omaha. She also planted a vine on the side of her house. When she came home from work one day, someone in the neighborhood had put Roundup on all her vegetation. Ooh,
Man, sounds like a trash cop situation.
there'd be some smoke in the city if somebody come over here putting Roundup on some of mine I was growing. Can you imagine that? Marion Williams says, "Yeah, the stuff you can grow in an old laundry basket in your balcony is mind blowing. TikTok search will give you tons of results." Interesting.
Okay. Marianne be on TikTok, TikToker.
She's a TikToker. Pop says that episode of Atlanta Buddy mentioned was so powerful that I felt like my psyche was being attacked, and its power will stay with me forever. Which one?
Man, the episode where they took the kid. The kid went into foster school and the
Oh,
grandpa came and like slapped him. He slapped him. Oh man, yeah. And it's funny, man. I drive past like that lake at the beginning of the episode. I drive past a billboard that's promoting that lake. It's the most haunted lake in the country, actually. Man, that's a real lake at the beginning. Just y'all, please go watch that episode. I'll find the season and the episode number for y'all. It's crazy. It's crazy.
That woman's in the house. She said, "Good morning. The majority of children in CPS are not white. I was made a ward of the state because my mother couldn't be reached after a fight. She was on her way to work." Wow.
I'm saying, man, I've heard of situations. I had a friend of mine who, a cousin of hers was taken out of the home because I think the baby just broke its arm just playing. Like it wasn't anything neglectful, it wasn't anything. Like the baby just broke his arm and it became just this whole situation and the baby was taken away. And it's just like, yeah, that's a real concern. Which is kind of issue why my wife and I are very apprehensive about putting our children in public school. Because and that's why I brought up if you remember the story again, OPS is training 500 teachers to do in-home visits. Like that's kind of the dark side of it, you know what I mean? The worry about that.
They're gonna be in your house one way or another. They're gonna get to your kids, huh?
Man.
Rome's Review says every dollar spent on incarceration, there needs to be a dollar spent on prevention. Look at recent crime in North Omaha. Brianna Full says, "Why do kids have to commit a crime before they get offered treatment?" For real.
That part.
Brother Valentine says, "Research and trends show" is usually a statement that makes people not feel guilty, right? Research and trends show. You start off your sentence like that. What you gonna do? What you gonna say?
It's the numbers.
Black Dynamite says, "No, for real. Those women were so serious. They said they were frying chicken in the microwave and couldn't figure out why it was so."
Man. But the sad part is that again, a lot of that episode came from true stories.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, basically it was pretty much a true story, except for the fantasy ending where he didn't die. Which is crazy. The wishful fantasy ending, which is that he got out and saved the kids. No, them kids died in that lake in real life.
Man.
That woman says, "As a younger single mother, new to Omaha, I was so scared of CPS that I never left my firstborn have a hair out of place. I was strict." Yeah, CPS was deep out here. That's I got a little insight of that, man. I actually dated somebody that was working for a portion of that situation where some kids were getting taken from their parents, and it was just like, man, the stuff I learned was pretty incredible. There's definitely some situations out there where some kids needed to be saved in certain situations, but a lot of them was real questionable about whether or not this is just a parent's choice on how they're gonna raise their kids or not, and how white it is that they're raising them.
Yeah.
To be real, that assimilation thing we was talking about earlier. Wanda Lewis says, "I used to work at CPS back in the day. I've seen children placed in foster care just because of allegations and fights regarding custody battles. They had to place the children until the investigation was completed, and sometimes it took a while." Wow.
Yeah. According to this article, state records show that some 80%, a large number, 80% of Nebraska cases are labeled as child maltreatment or because of neglect. That can mean having the utilities turned off in the house or having little in the cupboards to eat. It can also mean allowing children to play outside unsupervised or living in crowded conditions. Again, some of these things that some people just have to do because of poverty. It's not necessarily they're bad parents. They're just poor.
Man. Yeah.
And I will say I've seen personal situations, custody situations, where, there was a situation where one side of the family had money and the other side just had love, and the children wanted to be with the love. You know what I mean? You can't just throw, sometimes, even though they're coming from hard situations, that family unit, you can't just take children out of that.
Brother Valentine a little earlier says, "If you only knew what takes place in IEP meetings when it comes to our youth."
Speak on it.
That woman says, "I saw a show last night that said over 40% of American black children will be contacted by CPS."
Yeah, I mean, in this article, it says it's higher than that. Over half, over 50%, at some point in time, go through an investigation as a child before they reach adulthood. They go through some sort of investigation. And I personally didn't go through any of that, but I know plenty of people who did.
Ceci Jean says also, my nieces were put into foster care even though my parents were available to take them. There was no reason in the world they should have spent even one day in foster care. Brianna Full says, then when the child is taken from the home to protect the child, you still can't ensure their safety. Look at the St. Francis scandal and the shutdown of Utahali. I recently spoke. Say again.
Utahali.
Why is it the first time I'm hearing that? I recently spoke to a woman who was placed in Utahali as a teen, and she said she mentally blocked out the whole experience. It was so bad. Wow.
Never heard of that?
Never heard of it. What is it like a youth facility or what is Utahali?
Yeah, it's an academy. Utahali Academy. Yeah, it was an academy. I've heard of the school. I think I know about the scandal, the closing of it, but foggy on the details. I say.
We know about that St. Francis situation. We've been reporting on that one. Marion Williams says again, I don't understand the concept of taking kids for issues stemming from poverty and then pay another family to care for them.
Right.
Wow.
Wow. You just blew my mind with that one. The things you miss. Make it make sense. Why not just give the family the man?
Oh,
yeah, y'all gotta let that marinate.
Juvenile Detention Center for Young Women, Utahali. Jillian Post, good morning, says, I worked at Utahali for a few months. It was a nightmare. Wow. Wanda Lewis says, some kids is targeted in public schools because of domestic violence and other issues. When the police get involved, they contact the schools to ask them all kinds of questions. The children being late for school, etc. The school will start focusing on the child and their behavior. I've known parents to switch their children to school and the records will follow them. The drama will continue. So any little thing that goes down and they're off looking in your life like that.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a few calls just because we were having transportation issues with giving my son to school, and it wasn't, again, my son's well taken care of. But they were like starting to call and ask questions like, all right, y'all tripping.
One mother had warrants for driving violations. She didn't know the effect it would have on her keeping custody of her children. What?
I'm telling you, they'll find anything to take the kids. But the fact that, it is mostly so-called Black and Native students, and the fact that, again, a large part of it is as a result of poverty. I mean, that's really all it is. It's children dealing with poverty. And that's crazy. The fact I didn't even think about it like that. The fact that you'll pay another family to raise a child rather than just supporting the family to begin with.
I need to smell the coffee beans because now got me upset. Let's take a quick break. You're listening to First Sky Omaha Radio. First Sky Omaha in the morning. Paul B, Buddi3 Da Gawd, all of you. Thanks for all of your comments, man. Very enlightening stuff. This is a deep discussion right here for real. Stay tuned. We'll be right back and we'll jump more into the chat. You're listening to First Sky Omaha Radio. Stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. Welcome back.
Man,
it didn't help.
Got you drained.
It didn't help none. The break didn't help none. Because then I read Miss Erica Phelps message. I was taken because it was pre cell phone and pager days. My mother was on the bus on the way to work. Police couldn't get her right away, so I was neglected. Put in the system 3 years. My mother was hurt.
Sheesh. I mean that. I have to go with Classy Divine, not too far off, which is a welcome. That's the name we don't see too often in the chat. But legalize trafficking. And I don't want to go too dark, too deep down the rabbit hole, but this is something that has been on my mind over the last week. This whole Balenciaga situation. I don't know if y'all heard about this or are aware of what was going on with that.
I've been hearing little bits and pieces of stuff. What happened?
There was a ad campaign and some products that Balenciaga recently released that put children in the light of and like there's like people pointing to books that are on the desk of some of these ad campaigns and things that go to like pedophilia and things like that. I mean, we still got, Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted. So, what they were doing, what they were accused of doing. Where's the list? So I don't, we're talking about children. So, I want to bring that up, but not go too deep into it. There is an underbelly. There is an underbelly in the culture of that. And we got to protect our children. Like that's the deep, dark side of what we're talking about. And again, that whole Balenciaga thing has been on my mind, so I just wanted to point.
I still don't know what happened with Balenciaga. What's the gist of
that? So again, Balenciaga has an ad campaign that is putting children in the light of pedophilia. There's like kind of some of the content that they're putting out is kind of alluding to thank you, Miss Wanda Lewis. I wasn't quite sure how to put it, but she says they had a teddy bear in a dominance harness, and there's like a lot of BDSM type imagery with children.
Interesting.
And a lot of people like are burning their shoes. Like it's a lot of backlash. But again, I don't want to get too much into conspiracy theories and things like that. But Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty in the court of law. Like they were doing what they were accused of doing. There is a list that was attached to that. Where is the list? Who's on the list? What's really happening to our children?
Another thing Ceci Jean brings up too, and even if it's not about the children in that kind of way, there's another agenda here which I agree with. I think it's a deliberate act to break down the Black families.
That too.
So yeah, that's for everything that goes on, what happens with CPS and these places. I mean, like I said, it's tough because there is a place for that. There is a place for organization to come in and take a kid away from a bad situation, which there are bad situations out there for some of these kids. But it's messed up how they might use an institution for their own kind of agendas. And really, really like the biggest thing we're trying to do is really just protect the kids. Like you said, protect our kids. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Black Dynamite hit 2 favorite beats. Right on. Wanda Lewis says, once they place the children in foster care, you lose your SNAP benefits and your housing, which will make it even harder to get your kids back. It just
slippery slope.
That woman says, yes, Oregon child welfare, there was blatant trafficking. We have to protect. Ghost Listeners 402 says it. We have to protect our children. Stop trusting everybody else. Pops was talking about the wolves earlier. Brother Valentine seconding that. Wolves gonna be wolves. Can't expect them to think like anybody else is thinking. Wake up and do something, Omaha. My mother had to pay child support to the state. What?
That's what I'm saying. What? Make it make sense, y'all.
You need to write a book.
Man.
Who? Heavy Monday. 8:48 right now, if you believe in the concept of time. Let's jump into a little bit of a lightning round of some of these things that we were talking about earlier. Well, wait a minute. One more. Let me throw this in here. One more. Jillian Post says, do y'all know the Supreme Court has an Indian Child Welfare Act case they are or have been deciding on that could change the whole scenario for indigenous placement?
Yes.
Yeah, we started digging into this a little bit.
Yes, we were talking about that. I'm glad you brought that up. I had to look back into that link. But yes, the Indian child welfare case, it is coming back around. It is being argued again in Supreme Court. I think that is ongoing. But yeah, that she's right. That could definitely change the whole landscape of just the law that surrounds how your children are handled by the state. Yeah. Yeah. But again, shout out to Senator Terrell McKinney, who's trying to combat that. That's why, again, it is important getting the right people in the seats. Again, he says that the hearing and the study that he called, he hopes that will bring attention to disproportionality and lead to solutions rather than lip service, which is we're all about here on this show is solutions. So yeah, big shout out to Senator Terrell McKinney. Hopefully he can get some help to get some things done to combat everything that we just talked about, because it is real. Man, Wanda Lewis, yeah, I'm right there with you. She's talking about the Franklin Credit Union scandal, which you hear about a lot in the community, saying some of those foster children went missing, never to be seen again. The head investigator was blown up in an airplane, and the lady that worked at DHHS was forced to resign due to fear. Which I will also like to point out, DHHS was not present at Senator McKinney's hearing on Friday. They did issue a statement, but they weren't present.
Mm-hmm. Every time we sit down with any of these news groups, one of the first conversations we all have is about the who's going to put this article out about the Franklin Credit Union scandal.
Man,
there was a couple of efforts. There was a couple of reporters that were supposed to be flying in, helping some of these things out. A lot of blockage, a lot of powers that be that don't want that story out.
Man,
but trust these alternative news groups that we are, this news gang that we have bonded together. These alternative news groups are working on it. And the reason why I talk about news gang stuff like that all the time too, because there's a real talk about backlash. There's a real talk about people dying over even trying to tell that story. There's a lot. She says there's a whole documentary on the Franklin scandal. Brianna Full says.
Where?
Lots more to be talked about besides what's on that documentary. I can tell you that. Lots. Didn't mean to go off into that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm stuck there. Black Diamond says, I had an old neighbor tell me about that Franklin credit scandal one time, but I never looked into it. Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah, I remember Mama God told me about it, and all I want to say is somebody was scapegoated, and there's a lot, like Paul said, there's a lot more to that one. But just about 8 minutes left. Let's go ahead and jump into a lightning round. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Again, no haps, but if you have anything going on throughout the week, feel free to drop that into the chat. Let the people know what's going on in your world.
We got some haps, but we're gonna do the lightning round first.
Okay. Well, again, let's get into this lightning round. And this is actually just national news. Don't really have that, really does it for our local news. But Paul pulled this one in regards to, again, when you get the wrong people in the seats. We talked about Senator McKinney, the right person. And when you get the wrong people in the seats, you get things. That's what's happening down in Florida with Governor DeSantis, who apparently tried to remove a state prosecutor that he viewed as too woke. And a federal judge is now questioning why that wasn't unlawful and politically motivated overreach of executive authority. U.S. District Judge Robert Hinkle says he would rule in the coming weeks on whether the governor was within his rights to suspend State Prosecutor Andrew Warren, who is a Democrat, who was reelected last year as the top state prosecutor surrounding Hillsborough County. According to the Judge Hinkle, this whole thing is chock full of animus toward reform-minded prosecutors. Florida law does not allow a governor to remove a state attorney because the governor disagrees with the state attorney's general approach. So, again, we'll see exactly how this is decided, but it's also interesting the fact that Governor DeSantis apparently doesn't even know what woke means.
A lot of people who are saying I will refuse to be woke. Interesting stuff.
Yeah. Again, this goes back to the whole critical race theory. conversation and why some people were against it. But that's also bringing in the question in other news.
Well,
You
I
got
was just
something?
gonna, yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. Just that what I found interesting about this story was that a lawyer was made to explain what woke means to the judge. I was actually trying to find that because that to me that was the most interesting part of that story. Where is it at here? They basically the way that they had to the way that they had to explain what woke was made them look very dumb to me. It made them look like, why would you not want that? Why why would you not want that? I can't seem to find it right now, but I'll put it in Friends of First Sky Omaha when I look at it. I thought we were gonna go through that one. Yeah, I'm losing it.
Okay. Well, let's keep it moving.
Yeah,
Let's keep it
yeah.
moving. In other news, and this is actually one of the chat chimers brought this to our attention in the Friends of First Sky page. And actually, you mentioned this last show: black men voting as Republican. This reported by Rolling Stone. The percentage of black men voting Democrat has slipped in every national election since 2012, and even as the opposition party embraces the racism of Donald Trump. The question again, why are so many quote unquote black men voting Republican? According to Rolling Stone, perhaps it's too easy to reduce a small but increasing rush of black men or Republicans to an imaginary advertisement for black buffoonery. Yet such a thought is irresistible for some, considering that a man like Walker is actually the GOP nominee in Tuesday's tight U.S. Senate runoff race in Georgia. Which I did hear that Warnock is slightly ahead of. That's the last thing I heard. But again, currently the idea has been adopted by many relatives of Kevin Fulton, who's a litigator in Houston. Fulton is no buffoon. However, he is one of many that is voting Republican. Of course, this is a conversation that we should definitely continue to have, and it might need to pick up on Wednesday with Sister Precious. But again, verbal lashings are even worse from black strangers when he's canvassing the Republican candidates. Again, going into some of the things that these black Republicans are being called: Uncle Tom, sellout, Clarence Thomas, just to name a few. So again, definitely a conversation that is boiling up, and I'm hearing, and Paul, I hear that you're hearing in the streets as well as a lot of people still voting Republican.
Very surprised about how many people that I've talked to that have voted Republican. Just was beyond me. And just like anything else, man, they had good reasons why they thought it was a good idea. And gotta see what's going on. But it Pops is saying there's many crazy black men as there are in any other race, and Walker is a buffoon. Period. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's tough when you got a buffoon that represents a party,
Man,
and how are you not going to think that party is the party of buffoonery? It's hard to shake. But we can find just as many faults with Democratic Party as we can with Republican Party a lot of times, which is the reason why we think you got to think independently first and foremost. And I think a lot of them do that kind of stuff with us. This whole woke thing is the thing that the Republicans are trying to. They don't even know the full definition of. Don't even they just have associated woke with the left movement, and so it must be ridiculous. And it's hard to have any kind of conversation if you're gonna come in with a lack of respect on both sides that way. So that's what I learned this week was talking to a couple of cats that I call friends and admire that had to reveal to me they voted for Trump, and I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna have to talk about this like in a real way. Uh,
man.
and they, like I said, they had some points. They had some points. So again, respectful conversation is where it all starts. Let's go back to fighting
Yep.
round. Thank you. That's my soapbox for the day. Thank you.
Okay. Continuing with this not so lightning round, and other news. Again, a lot of families came out. Some positive news for Christmas in the village. Again, a few chat timers said they made it out. So big shout out to everybody that was a part of that. Although it was kind of cold, it's always nice to see again the community come out for something positive. And this is apparently a part of the North Omaha Village Zone revitalization plan. Of course, renewing arts and culture. And events like these tend to bring people of all backgrounds into the area, boosting the economy, which is a good story. But I did want to talk about whether or not North 24th should only be an arts and culture corridor? Should we look at it as some business corridors or things like that? Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Do we have a business corridor?
Hey, you tell me. So, speaking of business corridors, to finish up this not so lightning round, big shout out to Shannon Jackson, who was one of the victims of the shooting recently. But she is recovering and is still the owner of Heavy Hitters, which is actually one of the first fully woman-owned and operated barbershops. They had a write-up in Afrotech on Afrotech.com back in April. We'll post that on Friends of First Sky Omaha on Facebook. But yeah, just want to give a quick shout out to her and wish for a speedy recovery. And if you're not familiar, definitely check out Heavy Hitters. Again, the first fully woman-owned and operated barbershop in Nebraska. Big shout out to her.
Right on.
But that does it.
Yeah. Well, we'll go ahead and cut it there. Like I said, we will bring in some more. We'll bring in some haps Wednesday, and of course, we have an extensive haps on Friday. So definitely get your haps together for that. If there's anything that goes on during the week that we need to address and go handle or go have something to do with, then definitely throw in the Friends of First Sky Omaha, and we'll check it out. We can always put some of the haps that we miss in there for sure. Definitely want to end on a note that Jillian Post brings out. I think it's a very interesting note that she's saying right here. It's got to have something to do with the lack of educated voters. This is huge. Education, not formal, can eradicate groupthink or what some would call cult-like behavior, which is exactly what's going on with these parties, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm talking about all the parties that are the power, the most dominant parties, which are the two Democrats, Republicans. A lot of people are not educated on what on who's in the seats, what the seats are, what how it affects your life, so on and so forth, and they just gravitate to their gang, the Republicans and the Democrats, and they gravitate to their gang and just blindly roll. And there is a big percentage of people in both of these groups that do that because it's easy and you don't have to really think for yourself. Educated voters, civically minded, educated voters are the only thing that's going to change things or put different parties together or do anything to really kind of move some things around. Because, and unfortunately, those of us that are trying to be that have to do the best of what is it? The best of I always get this phrase,
the lesser of two evils.
Lesser of two evils thing. So it's cut and dry for everybody. For a lot of other people who are just not educated voters, just gonna vote with their gang, but for those that are trying to think, it's always lesser of two evils. And so there's a lot of work to do there, and education is the key. And I agree with Jillian. I appreciate saying that for sure. Lots of things to go into on this. I saw you guys going in on some of the Franklin scandal stuff. I see you going in on city council rezoning, talking about the 24th Street corridor, talking about do we have a corridor where we can, where it's financially together. There's a lot to talk about here, so I really appreciate everybody that's jumped in there. We'll definitely take some of those comments into consideration for future discussions. But it is 9:03, so we're going to go ahead and get out of here and let you get on about your day. Appreciate everybody that's joined us over here. Please tell a friend that we moved over to YouTube and have them come on over and jump into the conversation. We will continue having conversations with people about the issues that are affecting our neighborhoods, and based on a lot of the things that you find important and we find important, and we are trying to get on like mind and get activated about as well. So again, can't do this show without you. Really appreciate that very much. Buddy, you got some words for the people before we get out of here?
Man, of course, big shout out to Bridget Fogarty. As always, check out El Perico and The Reader. A new issue should be out, available in stands soon, if not already. So definitely look out in stores near you. And of course, big shout out to everybody for tuning in, man. As always, continuing the momentum. Again, we are getting close to the end of season 4, but that's only so we can, smell the coffee beans and prepare for season 5. So appreciate everyone for joining us. Please tell a friend and tell a friend. We are switching over to YouTube, so come on over. Let's make this transition smooth for everybody. If anyone has any, information, let's educate each other on how to use YouTube and how to better, advance and improve this experience that we're having together, man. So we always appreciate you. We love you. We thank you. Big shout out to all of you, especially the chat chimers, for letting your mind be free and most importantly, letting your voice be heard. But also big shout out to all the Ghost listeners, first and last time listeners. We appreciate you and love you as well. So yeah, man, tell a friend and tell a friend. In the meantime, in between time, Paul B, take it away.
That's it. That's it. Like I said, just want to leave you with that post that Jillian Post said about that education. 100% to Jillian Post. Marianne Williams says, also, Brianna is also doing some of that work. Brianna Full says, Spark is going to start the Change Makers Academy in March, and I'll be doing a lesson on politics to learn about the stuff you're talking about. Be on the lookout. So some efforts, some solutions there for people to go ahead and get educated in the way that we're talking about. So really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much for everybody who is in that fight. That's what's up. Linda Chicago says, thanks for another fact-filled show. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Jillian Post says, thank you for this space. Appreciate it. Pop says, what a show. As always, thank you. Love to you and the rest of the First Sky fam. See you Wednesday. Thanks, Pops. Appreciate you. That woman says, great show. May everyone have a safe and wonderful week. Drink water, direct your money, and check your health. Be good to yourselves. Please do. Please do. And Brother Valentine says, another good show. Great way to round out season 4. Season 5 is going to be on point. Yeah, we working on it, brother. We working on it for real. So, oh, by the way, we will get what you said. I remember you sent a message the other day. We'll go ahead and set up some time there on that. So thank you very much. Also, Brianna Fools is reminding me about Stable Gray, who's over there on the 24th Street corridor, a thriving business that's happening over there. I want to give a shout out to Stable Gray. They're the ones that's helping us put our new website together. And also a shout out to Julian Young, business advisory as well, who's helping us shape what we need to do for First Sky Omaha. So a couple Black businesses in North O that is helping us to be more professional and do our thing. Definitely want to shout them out and make sure that you go check out their services, because if you want to get your business legit, you need some of that help. So go ahead and get some advisors right here in North Omaha, Black-owned business, and doing some really great professional work. Shout out to Stable Gray. Shout out to Julian Young Business Advisors. Brother Valentine says, stay safe, fam, and continue to hold yourself and each other accountable. We always going to try to do that. Stay warm. Supposed to snow tomorrow morning, but we got a couple 40-degree days, so a couple more days of niceness before the weather turns. So check your heaters, check your families, check everybody, and make sure everybody's cool. Really appreciate everybody that is the caretakers of other people in their family. Give a special shout out to them, and check on them too. Check on them too, because a lot of times you get people with personalities that are always helping and never ask for help, but need it too. So check out your caretakers, make sure they're well as well. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and get off my soapbox and get out of here. Thank you very, very, very much for joining us. We will see you Wednesday when we will be talking to Precious McKesson, Politicking with P, and Kimra Snipes, seeing what's good in the hood. And we'll continue these discussions. In the meantime, between time, tell everybody we're going to YouTube, First Sky Omaha, YouTube. It's happening now. With that said,
peace.
By the way, Vanglorious, this is protected by the Red